Welcome to Email After Hours by SenderScore, powered by Validity.
We're your hosts. My name is Guy Hansen.
And I'm Danielle Gallant, and this is Email After Hours.
If you've been in the email game for a while, you know that emails are so much more than just digital notes. When sent strategically, they can be key building blocks of business growth. Today, we're delving deep into the world of email marketing with a serial entrepreneur who's traded golf clubs for clickable buttons and is now acing the business game.
And after creating 2 7-figure businesses, he's become a pro at using emails to build customer relationships and leave a lasting impact. Today, we're welcoming Tyler Sully Sullivan to Email After Hours. Welcome, Tyler, or Sully, or what should we go with today?
Whatever you feel comfortable with. I've been called worse either way. So glad to be here.
Welcome to the show. And while
Thank
we're
you.
breaking the ice and learning names, I have got an icebreaker for you today. If you could look into one famous person's email inbox, who would it be and why?
I'm probably going to answer this in a way you don't want me to answer it, but I don't like to do that or think of other brands just because I like to do what I think is right for my own brand and not have any outside influence. So like Bomb Tech days, people would ask me all the time, what do you think about this or that brand? And I was like, I don't even know and I don't even care to know. And I just want to do what feels right for my brand. Because I think a lot of that, you can copy other brands or other ideas or other voices, and it's not going to be authentic to you. So I don't look. I look at what I'm doing. That's it.
So not Elon Musk.
No. I wouldn't even know what to do with that. So
I actually think that's such a great answer. And as we were running through the intro, we labeled you as a serial entrepreneur, and you've built several businesses from the ground up. You've just referenced BombTech being one of them. Yeah, before we start talking about marketing, tell us a little bit about Sully the entrepreneur.
yeah, I was an accidental entrepreneur. I started 2011. I was in sales. I was doing, I think, pharmaceutical sales at the time and was just bored and was attempting to compete in the home run derby of golf, World Long Drive, where I was one of the worst world long drivers ever, but I really enjoyed it. And I would just go and hit balls all day, every day, as much time as I could with a full-time job. But during that process, I started breaking golf clubs, and they were very expensive, custom-built drivers, and I didn't have the budget to keep paying for 20 drivers a year or more. So I just started assembling my own, just out of necessity. And my buddy, him and I trained together and just had fun or whatever, he's like, can you build me one? I'm like, sure. And that gave me the idea to make the world's worst website. And this was 2011, like pre-Shopify and stuff. So I think I was on like Intuit, which doesn't even make websites anymore. It was like so bad. It had a cartoon character flexing. And I sold nothing off of that. But iteration number like 10, I think it was 6 months, 50 different versions of the website. I finally sold something, but I was on my boat, which was like not a yacht, just on our lake in Champlain in Vermont. And that was the first epiphany. I'm like, oh my God, I just sold something and I wasn't at work working for someone else. I just became obsessed with that concept. And it was a slow learning process. And I somehow took that dream, and I mean, this is a long story, but I engineered my own golf club with my University of Vermont, for a year, cashed in my 401k and made it because I felt that confident in the product. And really, from there, it was good timing because it was 2012 now. I was fired from my day job. My wife just became pregnant. And then Facebook ads became a thing. So all these things happened at I don't know if I'm perfect. It was a high pressure situation, but good timing to allow it to happen, the pressure I needed to do it. And then I was able to scale up, and we've had 50 iterations since then, over 12 years. And now I've exited and semi-retired. But it was a story of good timing and just following the traction as I saw it. I was like, okay, this is doing well. Let me just do more of that. And being curious during the whole process. I think that was my superpower, is actually being naive, but being curious and just seeing what works and doing more of what works.
A high pressure, perfect storm. I love this. And
probably
of course,
unhealthy, but it was needed, I guess.
yeah. And of course, this is an email, podcast. We are email people. So as you were building your various businesses, of course, you realized how effective the email channel is to really get your message out there. So tell us, what persuaded you that email could be such a powerful driver of business growth?
Yeah, so email is like one of the coolest channels because you can have almost one-to-one conversations at scale. And to me, it always felt very intimate. And that was something I always felt like I had a control or like at least have the messaging. And I just want to send messages that I thought as a golfer I'd want to hear. So again, a lot of this was testing and just not really having a real strategy saying, hey, I'm going to do this to get this result. But I just started using email to have conversations. And a lot of what I did in email, again, this was pre like Klaviyo days where email was not as sophisticated with segmenting, but it still was effective. And I would just be like, hey, I'm thinking about designing like a 64-degree wedge or a chipper, right? And in my head was like, okay, the 64-degree wedge is going to be 98% of votes are going to go 64 because I'm the founder, right? I know what the customers want. That was my ego at the time. And to my surprise, 98% of the people would vote for the club. I didn't think that would do well. And that was super impactful for many ways. Number one, it helped me figure out what products to launch. So it was way better for cash flow, figuring out how much demand there was. And then number two, we'd get replies. So the emails would then go from like the promotions tab to the inbox. It'd be like they would reply. And then I only had 2 employees in-house at my golf company, and they did emails and phone, and mostly emails. And they were like, you really want us to reply to these 10,000 emails? And I was like, yes. It almost became, because of how I emailed for so long, just this conversational method, not necessarily overly designed, but more native to the platform. They had conversations, almost like one ongoing conversation for years. Where it's like they voted on this one product. Now they message the guys at the time, Mike or Willis, and like, hey, what do you think about this color? They were just like, hey, I got the wedge and I played my best round, and they would reply back. So it was just this like real relationships began to form where they not only felt like they were part of the company, but they did help build the company. And I think by me being willing and open to receiving their feedback made it possible. And I think the other thing I did, and again, this is all native and just like natural to me. I didn't go out to do this for any specific hack, tactic, strategy, or result. I also would sign the emails for myself. So I put myself out there as the founder, the person behind the brand, put myself on the website. And that one switch of having my email name in the signature, to this day, whether it's good or bad, people recognize me. And it's the weirdest thing ever. And now I'm used to it, but people be like, they won't even say they know me, but then later on they'll bring it up or something. So it's kind of crazy, the power of it. But for us, it's okay. Social media, you could do the same method where you have conversations and build a brand with them. But email, those conversations were driving 40 to 50% of revenue for us. So it wasn't just like, this is cool, we got great engagements. It was driving real revenue and really the majority of profit, because we were spending crazy amount on ads, but we could use our email to, guess what? We had a new product launch come up or whatever. We wanted to give them an offer. They were very receptive to it and they were excited about it and they would buy. So I looked at it as years went on with email. I'm like, you know what? If Facebook ads ever stop working, we could still survive based on our customer and email list, because we've really done anything for them at any cost. And that's probably like the biggest asset. And I think that was part of the reason I was able to sell the company for a life-changing amount of money, because I would do no matter what to treat them well. And that was like an asset. And the word of mouth from that just made email like this center. And then it all just kept flywheeling and being positive and scaling.
That's so awesome. I really love the idea that for you, email wasn't just a promotional channel, but it's also a great way to build relationships, solicit feedback. I think how you described it being an opportunity to build one-to-one relationships at scale. It's a perfect way of describing it. And yeah, I think as you sort of built those relationships, those conversations, what else maybe did you learn in terms of helping your customers show that you were genuine about these conversations and these relationships you were seeking to build with them?
Yeah, I think, well, any opportunity where we actually, like, there was a mistake, I wouldn't say we'd look for those, but we would jump at the chance to do whatever they would want and go beyond. And I realized early on I had to remove myself from this process because I was too close to it. But early days, I would do every phone call, every email, and really learn a ton about the customers. So I knew what to do to wow them. But then I gave my internal team kind of the leeway to do the unexpected. That's what I told them. I said, just do the unexpected. So if someone said, hey, this club was shipped to the wrong address, what do you expect to happen? Just do the opposite of that. And that's what they would do. They wouldn't ask for tracking. They wouldn't ask for anything. They'd just already be like, hey, I already sent you a new club. And yeah, we threw in a t-shirt or whatever. And they already sent it while they're on the phone. They wouldn't ask for permission. They wouldn't go back. So there was just like that kind of philosophy, and using email as that channel allowed us just to have those special moments where they would talk about to others. And the word of mouth, I think that's at least for us with golf, was huge because the brands are so strong we were competing against that we had to do something special. And then the word of mouth helped us really scale up to kind of crazy numbers I never thought we'd ever do, only because I think we really wowed them. And that was just I looked at every customer as a real opportunity to earn their business and do right by them. And I think if you're a founder just trying to make money, any tactic, strategy, or hack is going to be useless. You have to believe that and really do it throughout. You can't just do one piece of an email strategy where you ask questions. So it will fall flat. It's got to be a whole ecosystem of taking care of customers, really appreciate their feedback, and having overall like empathy, I think was underlying, I don't know what you call it, current or part of the marketing. Is like, even though we got comments on Facebook too, we would engage there and solve problems. So it's just, I don't know, I think that should be the core of any business regardless, but it's often lost.
And you mentioned earlier as one of those ways that you were engaging your subscribers was polls. And polls and emails are a great way to get customer feedback on products, and lots of programs use these days. We see them in emails fairly often. So how do you get creative to entice customers to engage with your polls, but then your emails more broadly?
I think native and just original and authentic was the best way to do it. It wasn't like a overly designed email with a poll that was cold. It was like, hey, Mike, what do you think of this club, dude? Like that, like that would be an email. Just reply back and let me know. And it may seem ridiculous, but like that email versus a Survey Monkey or whatever, like a more formal poll, it would get like 25x the replies. And it just felt more natural to them. Because if you're emailing whoever, your friend or whoever, like, hey, you want to go golf? You're not going to send a fully designed, beautiful email. And there is a place for that. I'm not saying branding doesn't count, but there's often we'd interject these plain text emails that were just really authentic to the audience. And when we got feedback, we replied back again. So it wasn't just cool, you filled out a poll, we got the info, thanks a lot. And we're like, we'd actually continue the conversation. We always look for opportunities naturally to keep the conversation going. And it wasn't, I think that was one thing I did was like, I actually somehow, and I think they did well, my employees learning this, because there's some nuance to it, but just like how to really care, because they're doing this all day with these guys. And it can get tough when you got tons of emails to do, tons of phone calls. But they'd have sometimes phone calls or these emails that would take them 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or they've been on the phone for an hour with one customer. And that may seem like not good use of time, but for me, that was huge because that was real relationships that most big brands or most brands are just not willing to do. I don't know how many emails I get, and I try to reply to it, says no reply. Oh my God, you guys, you're so far off on understanding how this works. And email still, I mean, how many years has it been? This is, everyone says email's going to die or it's dead or whatever. It's been 11, 12 years, but it's still the channel, you know?
Not on our watch.
Right.
True.
Exactly. So it's pretty amazing if you believe it and you treat it in that way. That's the key.
I've been doing email since I had brown hair, so long time. Seriously, as you build out your businesses, you learn more and more about your customers as you've been describing, and you get to a point where suddenly you are the owner and custodian of a wealth of great customer data. And in your mind, do you think there's a particularly special piece of customer data that every program should be gathering because of, how much value it represents in terms of insight and knowledge about your customers?
You could easily send to your list in a single month a ton of promos and deals and burn the list and do 60% of revenue from email 1 month, but then have that email list be useless the next couple months and have a lower percent. So it was more of like, okay, based on how much we're scaling ads, can we have a sustained 37% of revenue from email? If yes, we're doing pretty well. If not, we would look at certain emails that we thought do well or not, or product launches. And some didn't do what we thought they would do. But for those, what we did were micro launches. So that's like how we safeguarded or made sure that products would do well, as we would do a micro launch where we would get this whole hype cycle where we'd have this conversation for a week or two up to the launch, but we'd get those reply emails, like I said, we'd do early access launches, and we'd only make like 400 units. And that I learned the hard way because I did a launch that didn't do well, but those micro launches probably were the most, and again, I did a lot of this for cash flow and knowing what products to launch. But if we sold out of that 400 unit launch within a day, the chance of it being a pretty good evergreen product was very high. But if we did not do that, it was going to be pretty bad. So that was like probably not a normal metric you would look at a dashboard, but for us, for new product launches, that was a really effective way to say, okay, that's a good product. Now let's order 5,000 units. Instead of starting out with 5,000 units, that helped us have conversations. Because sometimes you can get some replies for certain products, but it doesn't always generate revenue. Usually it's a good indicator, but sometimes they'll be like really amped about it, but maybe the price is too high or the offer is wrong. So it's not always black and white. If you get this many replies, you're going to sell this many. So it's all these like little indicators to see how something's going to do. Because like I did one launch for a beer putting product that I thought was cool because I was the beer pong champ in college. At the frat, me and my friend, we won the championship 18 games in a row. So I thought, hey, we should come up with this product. And we didn't do a micro launch. We ordered 2,000 units and it absolutely flopped. So that was the moment where I set my ego aside and started doing these micro launches and really gave me a lot more control just by using email.
And it's obviously certainly there are products that people need to invest in every day. And as I'll confess, not a golfer, but I would assume people are not buying a golf club every day, right? It's a relatively low frequency purchase. And it sounds like these micro launches almost acted in the way that life cycle emails or triggered campaigns might for bigger, more commercialized email programs. Was there anything else that you were doing to keep communication going and keep subscribers coming back for more in the meantime?
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the hardest things. It's a hard good, right? So you could buy one golf club and not need it for maybe life if you really wanted to hold on to it. So we didn't do product replacements often. We do one product launch for like a driver, and it could be 4 or 5 years before we launch a new version of that, which is kind of unheard of. Yeah, how do you keep emailing them when you don't have new stuff coming out every day? You don't have a SKU, you don't have 500 products to sell. And it goes back to just having conversations and really wanting to learn about them. So we would even send these emails that were, it would be a picture of a golf course where your ball would be like in the rough 120 yards away and say, what club would you use? And we would get so many answers like, I would hit a 9-iron, 3/4 swing. And they'd be like, what's the wind? And we'd reply back, oh, it's 10 miles per hour out of the east. So just like you would have these conversations and we would use that on social media to get engagement too. And we just have fun with it because you can't, to your point, we can't talk about the product every email when they're not buying it all the time. But we did have a very high repeat order rate, even though they were hard goods and we only had 6 real active SKUs. You could buy the full 6 set or whatever it was and be done. But when we did launch a replacement and like you had version 2 and we were going to launch version 3, we really wanted to make sure those launches were huge. So by being in the inbox for like, sounds crazy, but probably a couple of years, like 4 years of having these conversations, we had a lot of goodwill to then ask for this launch, to ask for their order. It's more the long approach to it. And I always did wish we had some consumable because I always think that would be easier, but maybe not. I don't know. It's not always the case. So I think it's can you have conversations and have you earned the right for someone to have you earned their right to sell to them?
Absolutely. I love that principle of earning the right. I think that governs so many different aspects of relationships as you go through life.
This has been such an interesting conversation because I think when Guy and I are chatting on the pod with whoever the guest is, it's a representative of this really structured email program and business, like highly promotional, instead of what this feels like, which is, of course, what lots of businesses are doing, which it starts with one person and then grows. So I think that's such a unique perspective. And we are about to wrap up. But before we do that, let's get a little futuristic with you here. So what do you think the next big thing in email marketing is going to be? Any crystal ball predictions or wild guesses that you want to share with us?
Hopefully it doesn't change too much. Honestly, I have no idea what's going to come. I think as long as you can have conversations, and I think AI is interesting a little bit with the regard of getting a baseline of copy and building out of those flows and campaigns. I have used it myself. It does need a lot of work, but I think anything that can not just AI replace someone, but enhance our intelligence, not just, use it fully, I think is interesting because email shouldn't be complicated. And if AI can make it easier, cool. But don't lose that human authentic touch in the process. Because I could see a lot of brands actually be like, oh, AI will just do it, and maybe losing that personal touch and that human experience. And I think that will actually make it easier for everyone else that's willing to interject some personality into their email.
Absolutely. I hope that AI can help me fix my swing as well. That's enough.
Nothing's going to do that. I've been looking for something to fix my swing for my whole life. It's not happening.
As Danielle says, sadly, we got to wrap up. We started out with a quick fire question. We're going to finish with one as well. If you could time travel and give your younger self one piece of email marketing advice, what would it be?
Do the micro launch. It'll be worth it. It will save you, money, time, and some sleepless nights.
100%.
And I've got one for you too, because it's been very successful for you, but it is not all roses in email. And so when you look at your own inbox, what is your personal email marketing pet peeve?
I think just too much design. Like those that just look like a true brochure is just instant delete, don't open. And the other thing too is if you have to load images, that's another one. Just use some text so they can read the email because they don't always load images. That's just a simple one where I see all the time. You have to load images to see the emails. Just stop. Give me some text so I know what it is. That's all.
Brilliant. Tyler, Sully Sullivan, it's been such a good conversation today, echoing Danielle's comments. Really, really enjoyed chatting with you today. And thanks so much for giving up the time to join myself and Danielle on Email After Hours. Been a real pleasure. And to our listeners, we will, of course, be back in another 2 weeks' time. So it's going to be another must-listen episode. Join us then. Bye for now.
Be sure to tune in next time and hit subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And don't forget to visit senderscore.com for loads more great resources to help you become a stronger sender.
To all you sleepless senders out there, thank you for joining us after hours, and see you next time.